Welcome to Brand on the Rocks, where we take bold ideas and distill them into clear messaging straight up. Now, today is an On the Rocks episode with just me and the mic, and we're going to talk about specifically some marketing challenges that I'm noticing. And we're going to break down the difference really between testimonials and reviews and how having honest conversations with your potential customer can drive results, can build social proof, and actually connect you to the right customers in the right moment. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Brand on the Rocks, the podcast that distills bold ideas into clear messages you can actually use. Each week, we serve up conversations, audits, and straight pours of insight to help you cut through the noise and grow your business. Hosted by brand strategist Ryan Holck, this is where clarity comes neat and your brand gets remembered. Now, we live in a trust economy. And I recently got a call from a business that I had checked out several years ago. They were following up because we had not made a purchase at that time, wondering if we were interested again. The challenge of the conversation was that I noticed that the last 4 or 5 reach outs from them had all used the exact same phrase, the exact same text, whether it was written or in a phone message. And the whole process turned me off because it led with the phrase, "We are clearing out at a discount." Now, I understand that clearing out at a discount is a real thing. I understand that businesses do that on a semi-regular basis. The problem is when you have had follow-ups from a company for 3+ years and you've seen multiple ones of them with no variation, they're always identical, word for word. You can tell they're reading a script. As a recipient, I start to tune out because I start thinking, wow, these people maybe have a constant inventory issue because they've told me the same thing 3 times this year, or that their marketing scripts are frankly just a lie. They aren't really clearing anything out. They're just hoping to get an in, or that both of those are true, and that this business actually may not be someone I want to do business with. Either way, I was left from this interaction with this company not wanting to know more about them, not interested in can they solve my problem. I went, I don't think I trust these people to actually do business with because if they're fundamentally failing in the initial conversation, what's going to happen if I actually start exchanging money and services with them? And I think that that problem is held by a lot of businesses, especially a lot of small businesses, solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, in that we have things built into our business that make sense to us. We've tried to optimize things. We've tried to make it clear that people love us. And the problem is that when we look at what we're sharing, it doesn't actually build a connection between us and the person we're hoping will build trust with. It's actually doing the opposite. And so that's kind of what I want to really lean into some today, and some awkward conversations that I've had to have with clients about what it takes to build trust and what it doesn't, and how I've actually walked out of that with better clients because of it. Um, but the reality is that, well, do this. Think for a moment about the last review that you left, or the last review for that matter that you read, either on Yelp, on Google, um, on a travel site, on Amazon. Most reviews are about your performance. Were they nice? Did the product work? How did they deliver it? What kind of timely fashion did they deliver it in? It's essentially a grading system. It may be stars, it may be letters of the alphabet, but they're essentially, a scale of 1 to 10, how did we do? They're essentially saying, just give us some bare metric information versus a testimonial about your services that are actually about the transformation that you delivered. Here's how my life is better. Here's how my business is better now. They talk to the listener. They make a story connection with the person across from you. And that is a dramatic difference in how people engage. Think about it this way. If you were to stand on stage and read the Google reviews about your business, if you were to go to social and copy and paste the uh, Amazon report about your product, what you sold, but it's not that it's bad. It's just not interesting. People don't want to read a grade. They want to read about what your product or service actually did for the person. Did it solve my problem? We've got to make sure that we clearly state for people, here's the transformation that you get. Here's the win you get for using my product or service. The problem is that when we go to past clients and say, hey, this has been I feel like a positive experience. Would you write me a review? Would you write me a testimonial? If you've ever done that, you tend to get either a blank stare, a question of, I don't even have an idea of what I would begin to write, or you get crickets. Now, I help businesses with websites. It's one of the things that I do on website messaging. And this is one of the places that a lot of businesses get stuck because what we ask for and what we get tend to be grades, those review kind of things, not testimonials. And the reason is that we aren't asking the right questions. If you want to turn a generic review into a story-based testimonial, you have got to ask better questions. Years ago, I was in a mastermind with Mike Kim. If you're not familiar with Mike Kim, he's the writer of a great book called You Are the Brand, has marketing background and helps really solopreneurs, small business owners figure out how to market their business better. And he taught me a process for getting testimonials for clients, from clients that actually tell the right story. And his process was essentially this: think about the things that you do best in your business. Okay, what do you do best? Now, if you wanted someone to speak directly to how your product or service helped them in that area, give them a leading question that they fill in the gap. Start the sentence for them and let them finish it. Ask a question that's leading rather than, could you just give me a review? Could you tell me something about your experience? Ask them a question that begins, oh, I'm essentially just answering your question. I'm filling in the gaps. I'm mad-libbing the answer. I had this problem in my business. Here's how this brand helped me. What it does all of a sudden is you're asking questions that they just have to fill in the gaps for. And it allows you as the business owner to not get generic garbage reviews, but to get specific reviews that, oh, you know what? We worked on fixing the messaging on your website. Tell me this. What kind of challenges did you feel or have with the messaging on your website? Before you worked with me, how was your website messaging struggling? After you worked with me, how was the messaging working? When you ask leading questions like that and allow people to fill in the gaps, then you get much higher quality customer feedback. And it's not just about the grade that you did. It's specifically about the transformation that they got in their business. Take a look at the last 2 or 3 proof pieces that you got in your business, so things that people actually submitted to you that you got them to fill out. Are they grading you on the experience, or are they telling a transformation story? Most likely they're grading on the experience. So I would encourage you to start thinking about what are those things we'd like to highlight in our business? Who have we served that would best example that type of transformation? And then what 3 to 5 questions could we ask that would be leading questions that would allow them to fill in the gap, to answer the end part of a statement, and let people know about the transformation that happens when they engage with you. And the reason this matters is that it's not enough to know your client has a problem. It's not enough to have a solution for them. People need to hear the win. They need to hear the win that you're going to provide. They need to know, when I work with Ryan, when I work with Joe, when I work with Diana, the process is going to get me to this destination. And when people other than you can share about their experience getting to that destination, all of a sudden you build trust. All of a sudden people go, oh, others have gone before me. Okay. One thing that I've heard is giving people the chance to go second, the benefit of going second. Meaning someone has gone before me. Someone has already trusted enough to walk through this process, to walk through this product and get success. That person is sharing it. Ooh, I'm going to get similar success because I'm in a similar place. Okay. But clear proof only works if your business is built on honest expectations. And really, that's where the next stage of marketing oftentimes tends to fail or fall apart. Is that we can make a lot of promises in our marketing. We are trying to build trust at scale, so we tend to declare a lot of things in our social and our face-to-face on our website that isn't always easily um, it isn't always easy for us to actually put numbers behind, to put experience behind, other than saying, I've helped 10 people do this. I've helped them do X, to actually get specific about wins, to get specific about how their business is better. If you're in a business that needs to show numbers, sometimes tracking those numbers can be difficult. And so we have got to really figure out, not just how do I find someone who will say something cool about the product or service that I delivered to them, but we've got to actually be in the practice of setting honest expectations in our sales process so that the person we're talking to actually understands what they're buying. And not only that they understand what they're buying, um, but that we're honest about how far we can take them in the process. Um, I had a client, um, they were a client for a number of years. I helped them with web. I helped them with a lot of messaging, email campaigns, sales, digital e-commerce stuff. And they ran a in-person event, and they had visions of it going nationally. And we ran essentially a live in-person event with, or they ran a live in-person event with a few thousand in person, and they wanted to telecast that and do a national version, essentially a on-demand kind of event. And so we spent 5, 6 months building out this plan, delivering an event at scale for them. Um, and it went well. Response was good. People enjoyed the event, but the following year they they were slow to decide on an event date, and as a result, the timeline for us to actually market it effectively to get things up to speed was really compressed. And when they came to me, I looked at them and I said, um, I, I got to be honest that I know what it takes to get people in the room. And there is not time for you to pull off the event from a marketing standpoint in the time frame you have allowed. Now, it was a very difficult conversation because, frankly, it was not a small contract. The Me saying there's no way I can do this for you was a huge part of a yearly bill invoice for me. But I recognized in the process two things. First of all, I knew the audience better than they did because of research, because of experience, because of background. I knew what it was going to take to realistically do an event at scale because I had done several of them. And so they came to the decision that they were going to move forward anyways. They were going to find someone else who could help them. And they went, found another agency, asked them to do it. The quality of the product that they delivered was good, but it all had very mediocre results. The event struggled to get momentum. It struggled to get people's buy-in, not because of the quality of what was created by the other agency, but because there was not adequate time and expectation up front that was realistic. They came back later to me, one of the key leaders, and said, I need to thank you. We made the decision to move forward on this, but you were the only person in the process who was upfront enough with us at the beginning to show that you cared more about our success than about an invoice you were going to deliver to us. We would like you to handle all of our stuff going forward. Now, when I made that decision to be honest with them and forthright and not try and pull something off on a whim, I didn't do it with the fiscal in mind, obviously, because it made a big difference in my year. But they came back and asked for more services later because I had set a clear expectation. I got to tell you, when I asked them for a testimonial, the type of things that they bring up are not what a grade scale. They're not, here's what he did for us. They are, he came with integrity. He came with honesty. He showed up in the room and delivered information that we needed to hear, even if it wasn't the thing we wanted to hear. Every time you say yes to a project you know can't succeed, I'm just going to tell you, you're writing a story that will come back to haunt your brand. You have got to build realistic expectations into your sales process so that when you come to ask people for testimonials, when you come to ask them for brand recognition, to send others to you, that they know you were realistic up front and then you delivered or even over delivered at a capacity where they want to tell other people about you. Another business, this is actually somebody that has come back recently. I helped them in their initial brand kind of outlay, story development. We were trying to figure out what is the core messaging around the business. We help them launch, do a lot of brand recognition stuff. And it came to a point where the services they needed were not services that I offered. And so I transitioned them to someone I trusted who could help them with the next stage. And over a course of 2 to 3 years, their needs shifted, and it shifted for a few reasons. The first of which was um, well, frankly, their business and their model changed a little bit, and the information that they needed to provide changed because it changed just enough that their audience actually wasn't quite the same that it had been at the very beginning. The challenge was that the company, the agency that was helping them, um, continued with the process that we had laid out initially. The information was good. The quality of stuff was stellar. But as the campaigns went out, the business began to recognize something has shifted. I feel like we're not clearly telling the story anymore. I feel like the culture of what we've been building is beginning to change. And it's not because our passion for this solution has changed, but it's because we're no longer articulating publicly where we're going. The leader came to me and said, I feel like we're losing the culture in this organization. As we've grown, the story has been lost and the information has been good. It just doesn't have heart anymore. And they asked me, they said, would you come back and help us regain the heart and message and mission of our organization? Would you help us figure out how to articulate once again the message of where we're going? Because when the message gets stripped out, marketing really just becomes noise. Internally, culture starts to drift. Staff isn't sure exactly what it is you're delivering. And externally, people are like, something's off. I'm not sure that you're talking to me. What you're saying is great, but I don't know that it's for me. And so I'm going to kind of take a step back. If your growth plan does not protect your story, you will end up with more communication, but less connection. And I'm telling you, I keep seeing it over and over again in businesses that start with a great plan, that start with a great idea. The problem is not the product or service. The problem is how they're talking about it publicly, that there is a disconnect between the listener and the business. And that disconnect is often comes down to how they're sharing the story. It's one thing to put out PR statements about a business. We're doing cool things. It's another to share the story in a way that actually makes an emotional connection. Because that emotional connection is what builds trust with people. That emotional connection is what brings people in to work with you, to want to work with you time and time and time again. It's why the best testimonials are really about your culture on display. They show your values. They show that expectations were met, that your services were above board and stellar, and that you changed someone's life in the process. Here's the reality. Proof that works for your business, proof that shows your business is doing something amazing, is not about how great you sound. It's about sharing a story your customers can tell, backed by promises that you were honest enough to actually keep. That's what keeps people coming back. That's what puts words in people's mouths to speak about you when you're not in the room. Here's what I'd love you to do. I would love you to go look at your website, go look at your slide deck, Go look at your proposal. Look at the things you have inserted that in your mind show proof of the work you do, how cool you are, whether it's review language, so it's a testimonial, it's something you've inserted about your past process and your past success. Look at it and ask the question, is this just giving a glorified grade review, or is this actually sharing a testimonial of how we change someone's life or something about their life because of our product or service? And then rewrite it so that it reads as something a potential customer would read and go, I want that story for myself. Or look at your business and identify a place you need to have an honest conversation about the scope of a project, about the timing of a project, about expectations, about things you're setting as saying we're going to do and then failing on. Is a challenge in your business. It. You have areas that always things tend to crumble. What kind of promises are you making about those? And how do you need to make them actually being honest? If you don't have time to deliver on something, if you know something takes 8 weeks and we're going to try and cram it into 4, don't. Be honest and upfront with your clients, because this is about building trust long term. As I mentioned, I had clients, 2 of them come back to me specifically because I was honest about the experience and the expectations and set realistic goals and said, here's where you are and aren't going to have success. And when it actually happened, then they went, Ryan was right. We need to come back. If you feel like your marketing is full of information, good, solid information, but the heart of it is missing, that the proof behind what you do is not landing, that might be a signal that it's time for you to revisit the story you're sharing, to revisit the expectations that you're setting in your sales process. Don't be like the guy who kept calling me and kept texting me with the same dumb phrase that just said, we're more committed to our script than to being honest about the products we sell. If you need to revisit that story, set realistic expectations. Figuring out the language around that, figuring out the messaging around that is the work that I love to do. I love to sit with businesses and go, how do we tell this complex story with clarity? Reach out. I'd love to help you build messaging and proof that actually matches what you deliver so that people don't just go, meh, that was a good product. Meh, that service was okay. That they go hire this person, go buy this product. It works every time. That's today's On the Rocks episode of Brand on the Rocks. I know it's been a little off the cuff, maybe feeling, but it is so important for us to understand that we need reviews, we need social proof, but we've got to connect honesty and expectations with a realistic story of what our business can do for a client. Take some time, think through those places you've inserted social proof because it was something someone told you to do, and look at it and figure out, is this actually accurate of people's experience with us? Is there a moment where people will and won't connect with this story? And rewrite it, or find a better story, or better yet, message me and say, I need help. Something's broken and I'm not sure what it is. I'd love to be part of the solution. As always, thank you for listening. And until next time, keep your ideas bold and your message clear. Straight up.